Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hannah.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannahs.
And you're back for Vampire January.
Heck yeah. And what are we watching today, Matt?
Today,
this was your pick.
We watched, for the first time ever, both of us, Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, it was a journey.
I liked it a lot, so I'll just say. Just off the bat. We have very different opinions on this one, which will be fun.
We had very different journeys.
Yes. Ready to conquer chaos like a horror movie final girl? Whether you're running a business or managing a side hustle, Ringtree LLC is the ultimate tool for taming your business calls. With features like intelligent call routing, voicemail to email, and custom greetings, you can create a professional phone presence all through your smartphone. No extra hardware needed. You can also separate work and personal calls, and you can choose your area code anywhere in any city across the US and Canada. At just $24 a month, it's a killer deal. Sign up today at ringtree.io and simplify your business life so you can get back to enjoying the things you love, like horror movies.
Well, before we get into this movie, I actually wanted to do a little icebreaker. We've never really done these, and I think it could be fun to talk about, just have like a little moment to talk about things that aren't the full topic for the episode, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe get to know us a little bit better, or film tastes, or things like that. So real quick, Matt, of 2024 non-horror movies, do you have any favorites that you've seen thus far that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said a bunch already. Anora was up there. Challengers, I loved. This is horror, but obviously I Saw the TV Glow is like one of my favorites. And it's horror adjacent. So that was huge. Dune and Furiosa are easy to just say. Like, they were great. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. What am I missing that I really loved that came out this year?
I feel like those are the highlights of what you've talked about the most, at least with me this year. I think we have some major blind spots. The Brutalist hasn't been anywhere near us.
I want to see The Brutalist.
And we haven't seen Conclave. I know I'm more interested in Conclave than you are, but I love Ray
feel like
Fiennes.
I should be interested in Conclave, and it has not called to me, but I'm hearing good things.
I'm interested, and Amelia Perez, I have no interest in.
I have zero interest in that,
I'd literally rather rot, but I think I'll probably watch it just for the Oscars knowledge. We didn't love Wicked. Sorry, homies. Don't need to get into that.
Yeah, I could go on a rant about that movie, so I won't.
Yeah. And
it's not because we don't like musicals. It's true Hannah heads.
Musicals.
True Hannah heads know that we love musicals.
Yes, we love. And we are thinking about seeing Wicked on Broadway sometime this year. We have a couple shows that we've been in talks about seeing, two that are newer, and that. Yeah. And
we're seeing Anne Juliet.
We're seeing that locally, not on Broadway, though.
Good enough.
We're seeing touring cast in Philly.
Yeah. All right, so off the musical talk, though, what about you? What was your favorite of 2024?
I would say I'm having trouble breaking down favorites, and I'm trying to think of things that aren't in the horror genre, since obviously we've talked through those. But what I have been telling everyone and their mother is that I'm going to throw a bitch fit and riot if Challengers, Dune Part 2, or Nosferatu don't get cinematography nominations at the Oscars, because they're the three most beautiful movies I've seen this year. Again, I have blind spots, but if I need at least two of the three to get some nominations.
TV Glow could get a cinematography nod also.
Well, it's not looking to get any nods at this point, so
that's ridiculous.
It should, but it's not.
Challengers for sure, though. That would be a crazy one not to.
The last article I was looking at had the other two films I mentioned falling into that, but we'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
I'm sure there's one I'm missing that I loved this year that I can't think of right now.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. Trap.
Ridiculous.
We all know how I feel about Trap.
Ridiculous. But I did meet Trap on its level, so I too really enjoyed that. And the movie that Matt thinks I did not meet on its level, though,
was
Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992.
Yep.
So we could get into that now.
Cool. I thought we were also going to do movies we're looking forward to.
Oh, you're so right. Any movies for 2025 we're looking forward to.
Off our game. I forgot Mickey 17 will finally, hopefully, be coming out.
That's my most awaited movie of the year, but that's Bong Joon-ho and Robert Pattinson, so literally what could be better?
I'm really worried that because they pushed it off that it's actually just going to be horrible. But you know what? I'm here for Robert Pattinson doing a little voice and doing a bunch of weird stuff. The other one for me, I'm excited about The Final Reckoning. Mission Impossible 8. All very good movies. Probably the greatest running film series in terms of like quality. Not a bad movie. Good. Yeah, not a bad movie in the bunch. So those are my big two. Do you have any?
I know there's a movie coming out with Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell called A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, and I know nothing about it, but I like that casting. I'm all about that. And then I would say I have like a couple horror or horror adjacent films that, because we have a horror podcast, I've looked more into that I know I'm excited for. For example, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein.
I keep forgetting that's coming out next year.
Like,
that's very exciting.
Such an exciting director to have new movies from, just like stylistically, and then of course for it to be a really old existing piece of IP and to see a fresh take on it will be really cool.
Yeah.
And I do really like the story of Frankenstein. I did not enjoy reading the book in high school, but that was quite a while ago, and I'm excited to like see that story told.
Especially his take. And I feel like he's a guy that's going to make changes to pre-existing work and make it better, usually. Or not make it better, but make it his own.
Yes.
Like his Pinocchio, which we never got to see, but we know that he
that did really
changed a lot of stuff, but fundamentally it was still like the same story, just told in a very Del Toro way. Mm-hmm. We got to see that one. Fucking, he's got Mussolini in it. Like, it's crazy. I don't know how it works, but I've heard great things. So
the silly side of me is also low-key looking forward to seeing how Fantastic Four does, because I don't trust Marvel really anymore, but I loved the Fantastic Four movies when I was little, like the shit ones. And, yeah, I just want to see how Pedro does, really. And, like, stylistically, the posters all look really cool, so I'm interested.
I'll see it for Vanessa Kirby.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see.
I was making a joke. She's going to be in Mission Impossible,
fair. Though. I thought it was a fair reason. Yeah. I want to see it for Pedro.
You want to see Cousin.
I'm so happy for him. I love him so much.
What's his name? Can you find it, please?
Eben something.
I don't want to just call him
two
Cousin.
Last names. From the Bear.
Cousin.
Richie,
yeah.
I love him so much. He's so funny.
All
He's
right.
great.
I'm embarrassed that we're talking about this movie where they're bringing back RDJ. My guy, you came out and did one good movie, did a really good job, and now you're going back to the slot factory.
Oh, it's incredibly embarrassing.
I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for you, man.
I don't want to support it, but...
He literally came out and was like, I got to show the people I was really good and can still be really good, and then I'm just going to not do it again. I'm going straight back. I guess
when you get offered that much money, it's hard to turn it down.
He must have been offered an obscene amount of money.
No, his salary has come out. It's over $100 million.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah,
I peeped that. I really missaid that. Yeah, no, it's well over $100 million.
That's insane.
It's a crazy
Can I say,
number of money.
Like,
it's
that
amazing.
Is also just disgusting and really bad for the film industry in general, and sets terrible precedents, results in a lot of other movies not getting marketing that should, results in a lot of other movies not getting made that should, and like, honestly, we shouldn't support that for that reason, but whatever.
I am not interested in paying to see it in theaters unless it has like a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
AMC A-list, baby.
Actually, yeah.
Good point.
That's different. But,
right.
Okay.
Well.
So, Bram Stoker's Dracula is a 1992 movie, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, as we said, written by James V. Hart. The cast includes, here's just the highlights, Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, and Keanu Reeves, among others. What an experience this was. And the first thing in this movie where I was horrified was Dracula's first design. And like, he has like many designs throughout the movie.
Which one? His old man design?
Yeah, where he looks like a woman, maybe. I don't know. So, Coppola didn't want a design that looked like a typical Dracula that had already been done in film, didn't want like, you know, the pale face and the widow's peak, whatever. So the film's hair and makeup designer, Michelle Burke, says she used her Catholic upbringing and angelic imagery for the design inspiration.
That's really interesting, especially with, I think, some of the more religious themes that this movie has. Like, that makes total sense. It's a weird design. I don't hate it by any means.
I think it's hideous.
I mean, yeah, it is hideous, but like
not in like a cool
not in a good
way.
Way. Okay.
No, not
he's
in
not
like
in it that
not
much,
like
luckily.
a Nosferatu. He's hideous way.
Yeah.
No, like it's not scary. It's too campy, and I hate it. So if that's already cluing you into how I'm gonna feel about a lot of this movie. Something I did think was cool and I liked about the making of the movie is Coppola did not want to use CGI, so he used a lot of miniatures or matte paintings.
A ton of matte paintings, and they
look great.
Exquisite. Bring back matte paintings. Like, it's very clear that they work, and they still work.
They also tried to create distorted views of reality by like holding the camera upside down or at weird angles to create the effect of things defying like the laws of physics.
I don't even really remember that. The thing I remember is it had amazing transitions and
they were hideous.
Incredible. I think you're so wrong on that, but we can get to that later. I thought the transitions were fantastic. I loved a lot of the weird visual storytelling where they did like overlaps of shots on top of each other. I thought it was great. I thought it worked so well.
Some of them were interesting. Most of them I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, I was having a fantastic time with all that stuff.
So there's like a lot of cast facts that I found really fun. When it came to, getting the cast together, he brought all of the principal actors to his property in Napa Valley to kind of get them to get to know each other, have fun, like build actual rapport. Except Gary Oldman. He was kept isolated from the cast. And during filming, all of the vampire hunters lived on one property, and then Gary lived alone.
He pulled a Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Funny. Which this probably came up, or the other way around, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The rest of the cast ended up meeting Gary for the first time on set during rehearsals.
Meanwhile, Gary Oldman seems like the nicest, sweetest guy ever. I feel bad they had him...
Well, interesting fact about that is Winona Ryder found him too intense. His acting was too intense, and they ended up having a falling out during filming where she was really pissed at him and didn't want to talk to him. And she has called it a traumatic experience, and she said that at the time she felt like there was a real danger with working with him. But now, since she's way older, she has said that it was because she was too young and was being dramatic, and they've since become friends.
Oh, that was nice of her. I was going to say, because she's like a big film head. I think you know that, right? Like, she's like a student of the game. That's like, at least in comparison to some actors. So kind of, I'm sure it was probably a dream to work with Coppola, but just kind of surprised in general. But I guess if you're right, if you're like pretty much an immature kid.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with Gary Oldman, who's like kind of method.
This was when he was really young too. Like, this is like him breaking out in his career too.
I mean, you can't even tell it's him.
You so can. What are you talking about?
Only in the scenes where he's in the younger version. When he's in old version, you can't tell. I don't really think you can tell out of his voice very much.
Oh no, you can't with his voice.
Like, I find it hard to even see him in this, even in the younger version sometimes.
Oh no, I look at the young version and I'm like, that's not Dracula, that's Gary.
I like that's
my boy Gary Oldman.
But yeah, the young version's an interesting take. I'm excited to talk about it. But sorry, continue.
I will say, to give Gary Oldman some credit, to make it not seem like he's a super creep, the whole cast was surprised that they stopped getting along, because they were like, what the hell, in rehearsals you guys were buddies, like what is happening, why do you... It was like all of a sudden there was like a huge rift on set. I found that very interesting.
You think he criticized her or tried to
Well, I did read some other points where they'd be like, okay, Dracula is seducing, what's her name? Lucy?
Mina. Oh, Lucy.
Lucy at one point. And they just were like, say something weird and sexual to her. Like, they would have weird shit like that going on. So I do wonder if Francis Ford Coppola was like, say something demeaning and pissed her off.
And then, yeah, that's possible.
Which would be fair. But Gary has said, to your point about what a dream working with Francis Ford Coppola, he said that was his only reason for doing the film away.
I always forget if it's Coppola or Coppola. I say both. So sorry
Francis
if anyone gets
Ford Coppola sounds better, but then on its own, Coppola's what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah, he's Italian, so I don't know.
But yeah, he said that was his main reason for doing the film, and said that was enough, really.
That was enough, yeah.
And then
Well, you have to give some context, and I'll say this probably multiple times throughout the episode. Pre this movie, the Dracula everyone knew was the Universal Dracula. I want to suck your blood, like blah, all that shit, like, and like which at one point was serious in the 40s, and then basically was a caricature of itself from that point until this movie.
And
other than there's a couple Nosferatus that show up in there. It is not still is. This is a big deal. And that's because you only know caricature of Dracula, because we were children. I mean, we weren't even born when this came out.
Yes.
But like, this is very interesting. So I'm sure a lot of people are like, Dracula, like, we don't want to do some hokey Dracula movie. And whether you think this is hokey or not, this wasn't in comparison to what had come out previously.
Okay.
So I'm going to get mad about it.
Okay.
But continue. Give me some more facts.
Francis Ford said he cast Keanu Reeves because he was hot. He just wanted some like hot young dude was seen by the public as like a hot rising star hottie.
And that dude has only gotten better looking.
He actually is like still very attractive.
He's also gotten better at acting as time has gone on.
Well, yeah. Francis Ford Coppola had also said that despite what people think, Keanu Reeves worked really hard on his accent. And that was the problem. He said he tried so hard. That was the problem, actually. He wanted to do it perfectly, and in trying to do it perfectly, it came off as stilting.
He was not great. I think young Keanu Reeves is not always very good.
Yeah.
The thing is, I struggle because he's also a really, really good person and has had a bunch of really shitty things happen to him. So I'm less. I don't want to like criticize him, and I also think he's gotten much better, and I think that he is an extremely important actor for cinema.
He's also said
sorry, go ahead.
He also said he didn't appreciate his performance in this movie. Like, he knows it's not great, and that he had come off of filming like 2 other movies back to back, so he was just also like really fatigued, and that it kind of shows.
He's a big deal. But like, you look now, like The Matrix is extremely important to the sci-fi and action genre, and also just overall a very, very good movie. And then also John Wick, some people will say like basically saved the action genre in some ways. So like he's just very important, and I think it's cool that he's still working. So and that, like I said, I think he's gotten better. He's gotten better with age. Yeah.
Some people just age like fine wine.
Yeah.
And that's Keanu, perhaps. And one last fact also has to do with Keanu, is that the wedding scene between Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder was shot at a Greek Orthodox church in Los Angeles, and they filmed an entire ceremony with a genuine Romanian Orthodox minister, and then everyone realized after that they might be considered really married to each other in the eyes of God now. Not legally, but in the eyes of God, Winona Ryder and Keanu Reeves are probably married. And Winona, after that, used to text him and refer to him as husband in her text to him.
You know, I couldn't remember if they dated or not. It was that I read about.
Oh, that's very funny.
She's such a funny... I love her. She's still funny. I'm a little mad about her for doing Beetlejuice, but I hope you got that bag, girl.
Get that bag, babe.
Yep. Well, do we want to do general thoughts and then our 15 seconds, or would we rather do 15 seconds and then just roll with it?
Let's do 15 seconds and
just roll with it because we're going to have a lot to say. All right. I want to go first.
Oh, that's awesome. Yep. I'm very happy to hear that.
Are you pulling it up, though?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's just Dracula, but they add a fun little love story in it that I think elevates the story in some cool ways. Yep. All right. Are you ready? Go. Yeah.
Gary Oldman is in the worst costume design and character design I've literally ever seen. And it really made it distracting for me the whole time. And there is a love story that was also shocking to me, but I didn't hate that as much.
Worst costume design. Interesting. Do you know what award this won?
I know.
Do you know what award this won at the Oscars?
I know that.
Costumes.
No.
Interesting, Hannah.
I meant character design, and that's why I then said
okay.
And character design.
You're really pulling, no, it's the children who are out of touch right now.
I don't know what that means.
It's a Simpsons meme.
Oh.
Am I out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong. No?
Well,
okay, just...
Anyone I've spoken to about this movie in this day and age, I've spoken to you and like 5 other people and there is the you side, and then the me and those 5 other people side. And I thought it was
Who were the 5
funny.
other people? Were they film fans or horror fans? Which one were they first?
Both.
Both?
I consulted with
All
both.
Right. Well, maybe I just have enlightened taste.
Maybe. Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
I had never seen this before. I had seen people talking about it pre-Megalopolis coming out because of Coppola. And a lot of that was back when I was kind of following the film Twitter more. And there was a consensus that a lot of people liked it over there, or at least had like nice things to say about it. I didn't know what to expect going in, and I really, really liked this movie. Just as for a lot of reasons, but specifically I thought the visual element to it was fantastic. And this is actually, I'm going to stand by this statement. This is one of those movies I watch that reminds me like what the medium of film can do. And it like really reminds me like how amazing this is and like the magic that a good director can create. And I will stand by that. And like I really think if you're going to watch it and be like, oh, it's the performances are kind of weird, or, you know, like some of it's a little like goofy, I think you're kind of missing the intent of this movie, which is all the full intent is just to be all visual storytelling, I think.
I agree that the intent is really to have that focus on visual storytelling, and especially to use film methods that aren't so modern, because they are telling an older story. Like, that's why he's not using CGI. Like, he's really testing the limits of what you can do with film without that, which I think is really cool. And there are some ways in which that works really well. But I just think that this is not a story where I appreciate it being so campy and hokey.
But it's not. It's just so funny because it's not.
No, it like so is.
On the bell curve of Dracula cinema and media.
That's irrelevant. I'm not comparing it to the bell curve of Dracula cinema and media. I'm comparing it to the story of Dracula and what I want from a vampire story. And it could be a love story and have a different style, and I still would have liked that better.
But it's all about the style. This whole movie is style. It would just be, there are 100 Dracula movies.
Yeah, but this movie, I don't want a Dracula movie that's taking all of the dialogue and all of the coloring of the film and all of the characters and turning it up to 12. I don't want that from my vampire movie. Well, that only works in Twilight to be maximalist.
I just disagree completely, mostly because I think that Dracula is such an old property that has been remade in so many different ways. And that's kind of the point of it.
Oh, yeah. I'm not disagreeing with that. I think when an IP has existed so long, you can take liberties. You can have fun with it. You could do that. It just doesn't work for me. I don't like
fine.
it.
It cannot work for you.
I can appreciate taking that leap and having fun with it, just like I can appreciate the stupid Winnie the Pooh horror movies having a fun time.
Well, I don't
they're
appreciate
trash?
That.
I haven't seen them, so probably.
Well, okay,
and
fine.
I can appreciate that this is a better made movie than the Winnie the Pooh slasher movies. Yeah, but it's not for me. And I think I was able to meet movies that were also hokey and silly on their level before, like Trap, we've discussed. Like, the point of that is to be funny and goofy and quirky. Like, it's not supposed to be scary and not supposed to have this big twist. Like, people misunderstood that film going into it. And I know what this movie's doing and I know what it's going for. It just
doesn't work for you.
Doesn't work for me. Even if I try my best to meet it on its level, it's not for me.
And
it's not the style that I want.
And I understand that. You calling it hokey cracks me up, though, because if you go and look at historic reviews of this movie, everyone's like,
that like insane. And they
hold
also
up, you can't say you found it insane until I say what it is for the audience. If you look up historic reviews of it, all of them are basically saying, oh, like, yeah, finally a serious version of Dracula. Finally we have this that matches the source material. And then
also, it doesn't match the source material, so I take issues. None of those people have ever read this book. Yes, there were things when I was watching where I was like, I don't think that's in it. And then I looked it up and I was like, that's in it. So, like, that's cool that you did that. The entire last third of this movie is taking a totally different fucking side quest that the book does not do. It is not a faithful adaptation. In some ways, I will say that's probably good, because the original novel, as we've discussed off the mic, is racist and problematic in other ways. So we don't need that. We don't need this whole fear of the other storyline in the same way. Like,
yeah, I want to, when we get to themes, I want to talk about that.
But it's bullshit to say, like, oh, a serious version, wow, it follows the text, because it doesn't.
I don't know if they said it follows the text. It's more that everyone had seen this story a bunch and they finally got a series. Again, it was in comparison at the time.
But, like, saying that this is, like, a good adaptation of the text is, like, the silliest thing I've ever heard. And they did say that. Like, yeah. Nosferatu is more faithful adaptation of Dracula than novel.
Sure, but I would say that is
Nosferatu 2024.
Yeah, you're talking about the newest one. And that's kind of like a complaint, though, at the same time, is that, and I said this on our episode, is that I felt that Nosferatu, it starts to, and I don't think it finishes the sentence there. Where with this, I love the new editions. I actually think it to say fix about a classic novel is not the word I want to use, but like its themes are a little bit better. And I think it changes some things from the novel that makes it stand alone also while still telling the same story, and I like that. But that's what we're going on.
I don't think it tells the same, like, it tells the same story 2/3 and then it goes in a very different story. Like, It's just not the same story. But I can appreciate a filmmaker, like, going in their own direction and like taking a work and saying, you know what would have made it cool if they wanted to fuck, and that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But
we saying all this, I never read the full plot description, so let me do that now, and then we can keep arguing, or we'll get a little more structured. But okay, full plot is: in 1462, Vlad Dracula returns from a victory in his campaign against the Ottoman Empire to find his beloved wife Elisabetta has committed suicide after his enemies falsely reported his death. A priest of the Romanian Orthodox. Oh my goodness, I can't speak today. A priest of the Romanian Orthodox Church tells him that his wife's soul is damned to hell for committing suicide. Enraged, Vlad desecrates the chapel and renounces the Christian God, declaring he will rise from the grave to avenge Elisabetta with all the powers of darkness. In 1897, solicitor Jonathan Harker takes the Transylvanian Count Dracula as a client from his colleague R.M. Renfield, who has gone insane and is now an inmate in Dr. Jack Seward's asylum. Jonathan travels to Dracula's castle to arrange his real estate acquisitions in London. There, he meets Dracula, who finds a picture of his fiancée Mina and believes she is the reincarnation of Elisabetta. Dracula leaves Jonathan to be fed upon by his brides, while he sails to England with Transylvanian soil, taking up residence at Carfax Abbey. In London, Dracula hypnotically seduces and bites Mina's best friend Lucy, with whom Mina is staying while Jonathan is in Transylvania. Lucy's deteriorating health and behavioral changes prompt former suitors Quincy Morris and Dr. Seward, along with her fiancé Arthur Holmwood, to summon Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, Seward's mentor, who recognizes Lucy as being the victim of a vampire. Dracula, appearing young and handsome during daylight, meets and charms Mina. Mina develops feelings for Dracula, accompanying him on several outings. When Mina receives word from Jonathan, who has escaped the castle and recovered at a covenant, she travels to Romania to marry him. A heartbroken Dracula transforms Lucy into a vampire. Van Helsing, Holmwood, Seward, and Morris kill the undead Lucy the following night. After he and Mina return to London, Jonathan and Van Helsing lead the others to Carfax Abbey, where they destroy the Count's boxes of soil. Dracula enters the asylum and kills Renfield for warning Mina of his presence. He visits Mina, who is staying in Seward's quarters, and confesses that he murdered Lucy and has been terrorizing Mina's friends. Though furious at first, Mina admits she still loves him and remembers Elisabetta's previous life. At her insistence, Dracula begins transforming her into a vampire. The hunters burst into the bedroom, and Dracula claims Mina as his bride before escaping. As Mina changes, Van Helsing hypnotizes her and learns via her connection with Dracula that he is sailing home in his last remaining box. The hunters depart for Varna to intercept him, but Dracula reads Mina's mind and evades them. The hunters split up. Van Helsing and Mina travel to the Borgo Pass and the castle, while the others try to stop the Romani transporting Dracula. At night, Van Helsing and Mina are approached by Dracula's brides. Mina succumbs to their chanting and attempts to seduce Van Helsing. Before Mina can feed on his blood, Van Helsing places a communion wafer on her forehead, leaving a mark that slows her transformation. He surrounds them with a ring of fire to protect them from the brides, then kills the brides the following morning. Dracula's carriage arrives at the castle, pursued by the hunters. A fight between the hunters and Romani ensues. Morris is fatally stabbed in the back, and Dracula bursts from his coffin at sunset. Jonathan slits his throat with a knife while Morris stabs him in the heart. Van Helsing and Jonathan allow Mina to retreat with the Count while Morris dies in the arms of Sayward, comforted by his friends. In the chapel where he renounced God, Dracula lies dying. He and Mina share a kiss as the candles adorning the chapel light up and the cross repairs itself. Dracula reverts to his younger self, asks Mina to give him peace. Mina thrusts the knife through his heart, and as he dies, the mark on her forehead disappears, freeing her from his curse. She then decapitates him and gazes up at a fresco of Vlad and Elisabetta ascending into heaven together, finally reunited. And that's the movie.
While our show, Horror Hour with the Hannahs, delves into the scares and terrifying twists of horror films, The Invitation, a new novel by Stephen T. Thomas, offers the same pulse-pounding suspense in novel form. The story focuses on Brittany Barnes, who is still grappling with the emotional scars and financial strain left by her father's tragic passing 2 years ago. When she receives an unexpected invitation to a lavish dinner party hosted by the wealthy Mr. Carl Cummings, she is thrust into a series of harrowing tasks designed by Mr. Cummings to test her bravery, morality, and the very essence of what it means to truly live. I got a chance to read an early copy of this book, and it shines in its pacing. The action picks up very quickly and keeps the pages turning as the stakes escalate. Fans of Saw will recognize familiar tropes woven into the story, which is very fun. The Invitation releases on January 21st, 2025, and it's available now for pre-order on Amazon. Link in the episode description.
Hey, I'm Jess.
And I'm Jen.
And welcome to WTF Is That Podcast, where we dive into all things creepy, crawly, and downright weird. Seriously, if it's spooky, we're on it.
We're talking haunted places, chilling ghost stories, and probably way too many jump scares.
Plus, we've got the juiciest true crime, unsolved mysteries, and urban legends that'll have you questioning every shadow in your house.
So grab your snacks and maybe an extra pair of pants, and get ready for a wild ride through the land of the unexplained.
And don't forget to subscribe, or we'll send a ghost to mess with your Wi-Fi. Trust me, we know people. Bye.
So,
I'm going to try and be less bitchy and pedantic now. We don't need to get more of those reviews. Since that one time we got that one
we got called
comment.
pedantic.
You got called pedantic?
I was talking about as above, so below, okay?
No, you weren't.
I wasn't? Yeah,
oh,
that
yeah,
was
you
it.
were, you were. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be pedantic.
Oh, no. Wasn't it The Dark and the Wicked? It was before As Above, So
No,
Below.
it was as above, so below. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Well,
So you'll be
either
less
way,
pedantic.
you probably were, and I am mimicking that hard. So I'm going to take a chill pill and try and give this movie its credit where credit is due, but I will not shy from disagreeing with you where
That's
needed
fine.
as well.
So I'm going to say a couple things I like that I've already said.
Can I actually
Go
start
ahead,
with something
fine.
that I like?
Yeah, you haven't said anything you liked. Please
Yeah.
do.
As much as I was like, ooh, that corny, I actually thought it was fun to take the Vlad the Impaler piece and put this into the film, since that is thought to be one of the inspirations for the character of Dracula. So I thought pulling from that was an interesting choice.
I would say it's not just fun. It's actually a really smart decision when you're also going to tell this long lost love story as well.
Yeah.
It's actually like kind of genius to humanize this previously inhuman character. And I will get to it later, but I love the love story. I think it's really a smart way to make this story your own and add some new thematic elements. But things I loved, I think a big part about it is the visuals, as I said before, the way this movie looks. I think also, while the music is fantastic.
No, slow down.
Oh, hold up. 1 second.
You gotta let me respond to things.
I was going to come back and say, even though the music's great, I think you could put this movie on silent and watch it muted, and you would have a complete understanding of everything going on.
I do agree with that. I think that the shadows and stuff, same with Nosferatu, like, I always think those shadows, I think that shit's cool as hell, and I think that's kind of a staple in at least multiple of the versions of Dracula or Nosferatu that I've seen. I think that is, like, such a great decision always. I think it's great visual storytelling. I do feel like, while this movie has an interesting visual style, it's kind of too maximalist for me personally. And I know it's not full maximalist, like it's not going full
I know
Elvis.
we need a word for this because it is like I always call it maximalist light, which we already kind of know. I like that. I like maximalist to some degree.
Dislike that. So I would have preferred something a little more subdued, but like if that's the style, I do think it looks good. I think there are some like really fun choices where like the coloring is really fun, or the like outfits are blowing so much in the wind to a crazy degree, but it's kind of like it's giving this like hot, sexy nighttime Dracula's coming into my sleep, ooh, hot vibe. So there are choices like that while it's not for me, I can understand it being praised.
Meanwhile, I was smiling from ear to ear, like the insane transitions, the lighting, everything. I was.
Oh, it's really well lit, and I will not talk shit on that. Like this movie has way better lighting than like half the shit that I've seen in the last year.
It's lit very well, and you have to know, like, I mean, Coppola is actually like a master of his craft. And what I was going to save this, but I'm just going to say it now. It's really interesting to see him as a filmmaker progress because, like, obviously you have The Godfather, Godfather Part 2, and like Apocalypse Now, which are very character-driven stories, very, very reserved in the filmmaking. He's an expert craftsman still in those, right? But it's so clear that he's a complete expert that he could make this and go, I'm not going to care about character as much. I'm going to completely tell the story through my camera lens and do it. He basically completely changed his style into this, or at least went all out with his style, and it still worked. It wasn't, at least for me. And I would say a lesser filmmaker, this would have been nauseating to look at. But it's clear that he is just an absolute expert, that he's able to do what is kind of goofy and still make it work, at least, like I said, for me and for a lot of people that have seen it, because it has decent reviews. And like it's also interesting to now look at Megalopolis, where he basically was like, I don't really give a shit about making money. I'm going to sell my wine and fund this because I want to make something that pushes the medium forward.
Oh,
I want to like do something stylistic. I want to do something different. And we haven't seen it yet, so that sucks for us. We should see it.
but like based off the things I've heard about it, I'm shocked.
You're
that
gonna
people
hate
are
it.
shocked based off seeing this movie.
Yes, you're
Like,
going to hate it. I'm going to love it. It's
but,
probably
like,
what's going to happen, though.
if you're shocked that this man is doing something goofy and weird and whatever, did you haven't seen his career?
You haven't seen his career. But like, I think at least in this, he has achieved that in the way that I think he's like pushed things forward. Like I have not seen another movie do this to the success that like he has, at least in the like eccentric way he did it in this. And I think that's also why I really loved it. It reminds me of why I like film and like what film can really do. So that's the meta speak on it. But I wanted to say, so we love the filmmaking. I don't need to say anything else about it, I don't think, unless you have something else you want to say.
No.
Let's talk about the change in the story then. The love story.
Yeah.
So you are into this, correct?
No.
Okay.
But like, well, and it's partially because I don't think Winona Ryder is very good in this or selling me, but I also don't like her as an actress. I don't find her compelling or interesting most of the time. I like her in Beetlejuice. I like her in the first season of Stranger Things. Beyond that, I'm kind of lukewarm about the things I've seen her in. So in that regard, it's hard to like, it's not selling me on it. I see her as someone acting with someone who might actually have feelings for her, which is Gary Oldman. He's selling me, she's not. So I think that like cheapens it for me personally. But again, what I would say is I like that for taking an existing IP, they're, like we said, I think it's fun to make something new of it. And I do think that would be the natural next step when you're adding that Vlad the Impaler opening.
Yes. Not just like an existing IP, like possibly the most famous fictional character of the past 200 years, It's funny. We didn't grow up with constant Dracula media, but we grew up with a ton of vampire media.
Yes.
And like the generation before, I think and the generation before that got a lot of Dracula media. I really like making Dracula an actual protagonist in this and like a victim and really changing the story. And I think that
I have a hard time buying him as a victim because he's already just murdered someone.
So what? Get over it. Grow
It was
up.
her
No,
best
kidding.
friend, dude.
Yeah.
And he tried to kill her fiance.
Yes.
Like, bro, he's not sympathetic.
But I think he is sympathetic, and I'm sympathetic because it very much, his problems come from the church, which I think this is kind of a theme I was going to get into that's very different. And so we have to talk themes anyway to talk about this, so whatever. So like his whole thing is he becomes Dracula because he went and fought for the church, right? That was the whole thing they did. He was basically like a crusader, they say. And then he comes back. His wife has committed suicide because the enemy sent a letter saying he had died because she loved him so much. And then immediately, like, the priest is like, well, she went to hell. And he's like, are you shitting me? He's like, I went out and I fought for the church. I did this for God. And this is the slap in the face I get. So he renounces it. He goes against it. And he's like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to choose to come back as this, like, vampire, basically. I mean, yeah, as this evil darkness to get revenge for what had happened, this horrible thing that happened. And it was horrible. It was fucked up what happened. And like you feel for him in that. And then basically probably lives in kind of misery as a vampire for a bunch of years until he finally like sees her again, her soul in another woman's body possibly. Mm-hmm. And like you can't help but like root for him because he starts to basically become himself again, the non-evil version of himself because he's like found his love. And like, yeah, he does some bad shit still, but it's a really interesting way to tell this story. And I think, especially when we look at the themes of the original book, which is very much about like invasion, specifically like cultural and race invasion of like of Britain, and they were very afraid of foreigners coming in and corrupting their women, which it's just like kind of a very thematically racist book, and in a lot of ways, I guess the language of it is very anti-Semitic. And other movies have actually played on that by making Dracula
like so
very specifically Jewish.
Fucking disgusting.
Well, I think though, I haven't seen the movies, but I know they've done it in a way that's supposed to be basically criticizing the book. At least that's my understanding. I can't imagine someone would get away with making him very specifically Jewish without that being a theme,
what did J.K. Rowling get away with in a bunch of children's books?
That's fine.
Come on. And movies.
But I think going this route basically gets you away from the race invasion scare of the original book and instead has a woman fall in love with the character. And it's like, you're having this, undead and this alive woman love each other and get married, which is if you're looking at subtextually is basically being like, yeah, interracial marriage is okay, which the original book is saying is not okay.
I don't see it like that. I still see him as like an invader of a very different race. I think they, like, to her it's not a problem, but like, I don't think they're fully escaping that.
I don't think they're fine. They might not be fully escaping.
Because then he wouldn't have an accent. He would just be some other like.
Oh, but he has to be from Transylvania.
European boy.
But it's. I'm saying the fear of this is clearly not fear of the unknown or fear of the other. That's like not the theme that this is going for.
I would say that's not the primary theme. I don't think it's going for that at all. But I don't necessarily think it's
fully escaping.
No, and I don't think that's necessarily what other media has been
best.
Going for either. So
I'm speaking directly of the source material, but. Either way, I appreciate the love story doing that. So like all that being said, I think what this movie does really successfully, another thing it does successfully for me is it's like, it is definitely like an original Dracula story, but also has the knowledge of the 100 years of previous material. So it can like kind of play on all of those expectations and play on all of that while also giving us this original story. So that's me talking about all the things I really like. Is there anything else you do like in this movie? No. Nothing? Mm-mm. Okay.
No. Gary Oldman's performance.
Yeah, he's good.
I'll give him that. I will.
So just the visuals for you work. That's
and not for this type of movie, but in general, I can see that they are very well done. That is why this movie is like, I'm not going to rate it the worst.
Did you like the music?
I've blacked it out.
Really? Oh, interesting.
I don't recall it now, but I think in the moment I didn't hate it.
Good. Okay. All right. You've already said some stuff you didn't like. What else don't you like?
Why the fuck does his design change like 5 times? And that's partially Gary Oldman's fault. I read about that he was talking with like production designer
the answer then.
To other people, and they were like, "Oh yeah, is this and this and this?" And Coppola was like, okay, but like that's stupid. No one should have let that happen. I just like I don't see it as like a cohesive character, an arc, when you're having him be like this old woman thing with a bad wig, and then you're having him be young and hot, and then you're having him be a werewolf, and then you're having him be a different version of old and decrepit, and then there was like a fifth something in there. I don't see the purpose.
Oh, I have no idea. It didn't bother me, though.
It being purposeless feels dumb. And also, I think the werewolfy design was not good, and I don't think the original design was good. I thought the only designs for him that were good was when he was being hot and young, and then when he was being, like, old and decrepit. I thought those were better done.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if maybe they were trying to be different from all the other versions of vampires that had come before, and that's why they were like, let's try this other one.
Well, it's certainly, like Coppola said that in interviews, like that first design of him being like, looking like an old religious leader.
Oh, I even meant with the beast form. I was also going to say maybe that was like when he was doing the seduction stuff, so I don't know if there's like this whole like man versus beast sexual or psychosexual element to it.
There is another scene where I think that would play into this man versus beast psychosexual element, as you put it, where they're like having this really horny conversation while petting a dog. And I literally wrote down,
you sure you're not remembering Baby Girl?
You know what makes me horny, ... petting dogs. And I was about to compare it to Baby Girl because
I don't even remember that in the movie. That's funny. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's her and her sweet prince, like, when he's in his sweet prince era.
Gotcha.
And they're like out somewhere and there's a dog.
I thought it was like kind of odd, but it wasn't something that really like took me out of it. I was just like, okay, he's kind of werewolfy looking now.
I guess because there was so much else that I found like distractingly big that also just like fed into
You said Gary Oldman wanted a bunch of different costumes though?
The article that I was reading specifically said because Dracula scenes did not start filming until very late into the production, Oldman had plenty of downtime to come up with additional ideas, and he would get together with a makeup designer. And according to Coppola, before I knew it, we were going to have not just one monster, but 5 monsters in the film. And like, that's all it says. So I actually can't give you any more information without doing a deeper dive.
I think it's like a fine complaint. I think my like catch-all for this is like, if it isn't about the visuals, it's just missing the point. You know, like that's something for me that those so overwhelmed me or intoxicated me that I was like, acting's kind of meh. And I will say that's something I didn't like. I thought the acting was kind of meh, but I even feel like complaining about it is just like,
whose acting did you feel was kind of meh?
Keanu's not good.
I thought he was just bland. Like, he just kind of said words.
Was Carrie-Ells fine?
He didn't have like much to do, so he was fine.
Yeah, like he's not great. I can't remember if Winona was that good. None of them were like standout, is what I would say. But that's not what this movie's about. You know, that's where it becomes hard for me to like find a good complaint.
I thought Lucy was fine for what her character was.
Yeah.
I found Anthony Hopkins' character's writing to be, again, pretty bombastic. So I thought his performance was irritating.
He's Van Helsing,
kind of weird. But I don't know if that's his fault.
Yeah.
And I would say Winona's just like isn't believable. I don't buy into it to me. But
yeah,
like whatever.
No, and that's I think my thing is like you're totally correct. But it feels to me that complaint is missing the point. But that's okay. You don't have to enjoy it. But like, I think I agree with you on all of that. But it's just like one of those ones where it's like, I don't care though. And that's like, maybe that's a testament to like what Coppola was able to do.
Oh, see, I care. I think bad acting is so extremely distracting to me. Like, just so violently distracting to me. And that's even why, like, we talked about this, Twin Peaks, I started it and I was like, oh, they are in like a soap opera and that is how the acting is and it's bothering me.
They're not actually bad actors in that, other than
and I know this. Yes, I do know this. I've watched additional scenes with you. I've watched further into the show. I know it's not going to be a consistent complaint that I had, but it did deter me when I first started and it like I had to pause. Like, that is a very big thing for me across all medium. It's not exclusive to this. But, like, yeah, I can't really enjoy a movie if I think the acting is disgusting.
Yeah. very American Hollywood brained of you.
Well, if you also think about like that was my hobby when I was younger.
Yes, you acted.
Acting, plays,
I
musicals,
also am surprised
so.
because I kept saying it's very theatric, this movie. And like that's very much what it's going for in a lot of ways. So like it is theatrical acting, I think.
Well, and that's Anthony Hopkins is so fucking theatrical, and that's why I'm not gonna call him like a bad actor. I just think the way they wrote the character, I don't love it for the movie, but in general, the character, I don't know. But like, no, I think Winona and Keanu are not, and they're not theatric. They're just not good.
Sure. And again, I agree with you on those things.
Yeah, I
It just
know.
doesn't
You're
bother
just
me.
Defending it.
No,
I don't know.
not defending. It's more that it's like when we talk about purpose in film a lot, it's just like that's clearly not a focus of what was trying to be done, I think. But okay. Is there
Anything
anything else
you didn't like?
I think the things you said I agree with.
How did you feel about the horniness in this movie?
Perfect level. I thought it was, if it had been more, it probably would have been too much, and it was a lot already.
It was a lot.
And that's what I want. That's what this should be. And like when people were talking about Nosferatu, they were like, yeah, it's so horny. And I was like, have you seen 1992 Bram Stoker's Dracula?
I think it was really horny given how uggo the character is.
Sure.
Like, I think
fine.
that's a play into it. And also that, like, they look...
But
like, stylistically, production design, all of that, like, feels very old-timey.
Yeah.
And that is very sexual for old-timey.
So is this, though. I mean,
This isn't giving old-timey, though. This is giving, like, modern...
Yeah. I think the horniness is such a critical element to this story, too. And I think it's interesting how, when you go to the Wikipedia plot description, all the, like, what we would call mesmerizing... And Nosferatu is called seducing in this one. Like the vampires have this charisma, and you're never really sure if it's that they're actually have like riz or if it is magic. And in this one, you're never really sure because he is charismatic and he is seducing these women. Mm-hmm. And I really like going that route with it. This movie is like uncomfortably horny sometimes.
I didn't like how every time Lucy was like having these horn dog moments, her boob fell out of her outfit. I like felt so bad for this woman with just this exposed
no complaints
boob.
here.
Well, there was a couple times I was like, her tits out
Also-
again, and you were like, what?
The brides are great. Every Dracula story needs to have the brides. All right. It feels so. Nosferatu. What if Thomas was getting if Nicholas Hoult was getting fed on by the brides?
I hated that scene too.
Oh, you're so wrong. I'm sorry.
The horniness to me.
You can't tell me the
was
original
too much.
Dracula story isn't a little goofy. You got a cowboy running around. There's a cowboy in the book Dracula. And fun fact, this is, well, not a fact, fun assumption people make. Supposedly the story goes that Bram Stoker met Theodore Roosevelt before writing the book. And people have speculated that he added Quincy the cowboy based on Theodore Roosevelt, which is hilarious.
That is
USA.
iconic.
No one knows, so don't take that for word, but that's like a discussion people have had.
Iconic.
But like, there has to be some level of goofiness to the original book. Maybe you need to reread it.
I need to reread it and report back for sure.
Reread it. But like, when it comes down to it, I would don't like, it's awesome to have 100 different versions of Dracula, especially with, like, this is what we need to be doing with public domain stuff. Everyone make your own version, have your own idea, your own style. Like, that's the magic of art, Hannah. Mm-hmm. It's the magic of film.
Yes, sir, it is.
So, like, don't just make a horror movie
and
at
that's
the
why I'm
second something
excited.
gets to fucking, what's it called? Public domain.
Yeah, no, not that.
Just make your own Winnie the Pooh cartoon if you want, you know?
What I would say on that note is I'm excited. We're getting 2 Frankenstein stories this
It's great.
year.
Hell yeah. Wait, what's the second one?
Bride of
We're
Frankenstein.
getting a bride?
Yeah, directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Oh, interesting. I forgot about that. Neat.
And then we're getting
Hell yeah.
actual Frankenstein.
That's
Like,
great.
that's sick.
And like, they might suck. They might be good. I don't know. But like, at least people are being creative and trying to throw their own spin on this. Like, we're going to have 100 more Dracula movies in the future, right?
Amen.
Like, we are. And every vampire movie we have is in some way inspired by the book, some way probably inspired by this movie, inspired by the Universal movies, inspired by Nosferatu. Like, it's all there, and that's awesome. So I think it's cool, personally. Mm-hmm.
Could we get into ratings, you
yes,
think?
Let's get into ratings. You're done. You don't want to talk about it anymore.
I've been trying to hold my shit together, and I haven't been doing a good job. So
that's fine. Well, you can give your bad rating, and then I'll give my good rating.
Max of 5 out of 10.
You're giving it a 5? Okay.
And that's like me being generous.
And this very much comes down to your taste, though. Your like personal taste. And like, I'm not going to actually say you have bad taste because that's not true. Because you don't. You can't stand like any little bit of maximalism.
No.
Unless it's someone like, and this isn't maximalist, you're okay with heightened reality, like a Lynch or an M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes.
You're not okay with a maximalist reality. Again, we got to find a better word.
My style.
If somebody knows the word we're looking for, it is maximalist to some degree, but there's something for this. Okay. For me, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10.
That's
I really liked this. I think this movie I think had I seen this movie pre going to college, there's a much better chance I would have gone to film school. Like, this feels so inspirational. I really love what this movie did. I read a really good review from this guy on Letterboxd. I'm just going to read part of it. His name is Silent Dawn. And the last thing he said, he gave it 5 stars and he wrote a glowing review. He said, at first he said, it resonates with every fiber of my cinematic being. But the last paragraph was, above all, Bram Stoker's Dracula is a magnificent celebration of film as a visual medium. Much like the masters of Murnau and Robert Wiene, the images on screen feel revived with a cinematic dreamscape as if their distinct life force couldn't be comprehended anywhere else. This is a true, honest-to-God, bona fide movie, and it leaves me yearning for a way to somehow dive into its world and its constant stream of imagination and inventiveness. Hallucinations are only the beginning. And I think that is really why I gave this movie such a high rank. And as I've said before, it really makes me... It reminds you why you love film. And I've said that 5 times, but that's the best way to put it. So, and for those of you keeping track, that means I rated this higher than Nosferatu 2024. And you know what? I'm going to stand by it for now. I'll eat my foot at some point, or shoe, whatever we say. But for now, I'm going to stand by it. So I would say, if you're looking for more vampire, you're looking for some more Dracula-specific stories and a different take, or if you just like movies, if you're a film person, maybe not even a horror person, go watch this. Hannah, would you recommend it still, even with all your complaints?
No.
Really?
No. It was a waste of my fucking time.
Oh, that's great. You're crazy. You said there's so many nice things about its visuals, and you wouldn't recommend it for that?
I think give it 5 minutes to watch the visuals and appreciate it.
You have to at least get past the opening of like the Vlad story.
Watch
5 minutes
without
past
sound,
that.
Maybe.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think I would appreciate it more muted.
Well, we need to get you on some of Coppola's more character-driven movies and see if you still like him. Because like I said, he's much more reserved in the other movies. I think it's cool. I think that he is a star, and I like that he wanted to push boundaries. Yeah. And I like that he's continued to. So,
well, and I'm glad that you really like this since you're the one pushing for it. So I'm glad that you got to have this moment that you appreciated.
I am really happy. Especially not ever seeing it. And I went in skeptical. I went in just...
No, you didn't.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know if I liked it. Skeptical is not the right word. I went in with an open mind.
Okay.
Did I not? I had no idea what I was going to think. So, okay. Well, I liked it. Hannah didn't, and that's okay. But I got nothing else to say. Enjoy Vampire January. But I'm Matt Hannah.
I'm pissy.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannahs. Vampire January is not over yet. So get ready for next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannahs. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you can find podcasts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannahs on TikTok and Instagram for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!